And we're back. Welcome to the Prison Post. My name is Richard Mireles. My co-host Jason Bryant, the always brilliant, is on assignment today, but he wanted to tell you both that he looks forward to seeing you in the future. You know how much he loves you, and he's sad that he couldn't be here today. That said, I'm super excited for today's show. We have two leaders with a tremendous transformational stories of resilience, social impact, entrepreneurial leadership, and they're currently in the great business of transforming lives and healing communities. It's great to have you both here. I like to do a little formal introduction before we break the ice and have some fun. But I thank you both for driving from the Bay Area to the Darling New Media podcast studio this morning to be in studio with us versus StreamYard or Zoom like we sometimes do. But we have Crop Organizations, former Director of Business Development, former Executive Director, and then also Crop Organizations, Ken Oliver. And then also Crop Organization's newest addition to the team. Well, maybe not the newest, but our new Executive Director, Terah Lawyer-Harper. Is that right?
That's correct.
All right. So let's start off with the famous Ken Oliver. Okay? I love this brother. All right, let's see. So Ken Oliver, like I shared, he's the former Director of Business Development and Executive Director at Crop Organization. Today, he is the Executive Director at Checker Foundation and Co-Chairman of Crop's Board. And Ken was incarcerated for over 25 years, including spending 8 years in solitary confinement, a story that I still want to capture on this show at a later date. Today, he is a proximate leader in the criminal justice reform movement. He is committed to reentry architecture, workforce development, and inclusive impact strategy. He's passionate about leveling the playing field to maximize potential and possibility for justice-involved people. Ken is solution-driven and adamant about, I like what he says, kicking down doors of access to tech and desegregating opportunity, the future of work, and economic mobility for marginalized communities. As a servant leader, he approaches this work with an insistence on human-centered solutions and embraces our community's most pressing challenges. There's not a conversation that Ken can't have. And as some of you know who've been following the show for a long time, some of our followers out there, Ken used to be the host of the Prison Post Policy Hour, and so that's still a possibility. He got a little busy with all the work that he was doing there, but still a policy genius. Welcome back, brother. Great to have you on the show.
Appreciate you. I'm honored and humbled as always, Rich, to be here with you and to be in your presence and the way that you put it down. So thank you.
Thank you, man. I'm excited about today. And then there's Terah Lawyer-Harper. Today, Terah is Crop Organization's new executive director. She was previously an associate director at Impact Justice. At Impact Justice, she did some amazing things. Terah developed and led the organization's groundbreaking Homecoming Project, a $3.5 million housing innovation project that paired people returning home after long prison sentences with welcoming community hosts, and received national and state recognition for her innovation and impact in the Bay Area. Terah is a young professional of color fellow with the National Institute for Criminal Justice Reform, an alumnus Next Generations fellow with the Center on Juvenile and Criminal Justice, and a formerly elected chairperson for the Beyond Incarceration program inside CDCR's Central California Women's Facility, where she spent 15 years incarcerated, during which time she became a certified peer health educator, drug and alcohol counselor, earned several bachelor's degrees, and started a national nonprofit to provide correspondence courses to people incarcerated in prisons. I've gotten to know Terah over the last 3 months, and I can tell our audience that our team is excited to have her as our new executive director. She's passionate, ambitious, innovative, what else? Solution-oriented, forward-thinking, and definitely a social connector, networker. She's warm, attentive, and a fellow Sagittarius. What's up? She has a strong moral compass, is a courageous woman. She's professional, articulate, in my opinion, a born leader, and she takes pride in her efforts with great energy and focus. Our team loves how you take and offer feedback. You're driven by your purpose with all the things that you do. You still find time to invest in the best of all things, your family, your friends, your work, and your community. Welcome to the Prison Post, Terah.
Thank you so much. That was incredible. I did not expect that.
All right, well.
I appreciate it so much. I'm privileged to serve my community and make everyone proud.
That's what's up. And, as much as you and Ken do, you guys could get some good rest in a couple of years. We keep hearing about this rest to come, but these guys are just so hardworking. so committed and passionate. We'll probably lose a few years of our life from the lack of sleep, but I want to say this: we're going to make an impact, leave a dent in this world with our time and with our talents, because we love people and we love our formerly incarcerated and incarcerated brothers and sisters, and want to change the narrative for what it's like for them to come home. Now, Ken, so me and you got out of being incarcerated probably a few months apart. I had my reentry challenges, and you had some as well. Would you tell us a little bit about the story of how you first met Terah and how that was connected to some of your reentry challenges?
Sure. So it's so interesting to come back full circle with stories in life, right? 2.5 years ago, I got out and was told that I had to come to the Bay Area in California. I'm from Los Angeles, as most people know. Mm-hmm. And when I arrived, I went into probably the most difficult reentry situation that I could imagine, outside of being homeless. I was put into a place where it was a substance abuse facility and placed into a room with 5 other individuals that I did not know, that hadn't served time in prison before. And their trajectory in life was just very different than where I thought I was going to be going coming out of prison. It was supposed to be the happiest moment in my life, to be free after serving 24 plus years. And it quickly became a mirror of prison. I felt like I was in prison, even though I just got released.
Yeah.
And after about a week and a half, my former partner, she knew Terah and worked for a big organization that was involved with formerly incarcerated people, and said, let's try to get you out of there, and called Terah. And I had the privilege of meeting Terah on a phone call. She was working at Impact Justice, as you mentioned, trying to get people housing. But unfortunately, because of the way I was released from the court after a court petition, Terah's organization didn't have funding for people who got out of prison, which is another policy issue we can talk about another day, right? And Terah knew this attorney named Kate Chatfield, who was involved with Prop 1437 or AB 1437, which, Jay and Matt participated in. And she had a house in West Oakland where, some of the top people in our field who get out of prison and are successful, Erline from Ear Hustle, and others were living there. And Kate's philosophy was, I have this house, I don't live there, there's no program expectation, I believe men should be men, and I'm going to let you guys live and do what you want, just don't burn my house down. And so there were 4 rooms, and there were 3 guys, right? And she gave us a key and said, that's awesome. You guys do what you do. And so to be free, I was met with someone who gave me freedom. And so, I always remembered Terah. I followed Terah for that. I was impressed with Terah from the very beginning. That was in 2019. And so that's how we met.
Yeah. Do you remember that, Terah?
I do. And I just remember wanting to ensure that our network of housing providers was full and complete, to be very inclusive of all individuals, no matter what their circumstances. And so I was grateful for some of that early on work and building out that partnership network with various different other housing providers, which is how I met Kate, and which was how I was able to refer Ken to have safe housing, because he deserved it. He needed it. And you saw just how valuable that was early on, because it set your foundation up so you don't have to worry about where you're going to sleep at. You don't have to worry about, are you going to be safe? You can really focus on your trajectory for your next second chance and thrive.
That's right.
That's awesome. And Ken has that Rolodex in his mind that, so 3 months ago, fast forwarding, 3 months ago, Ken had been our executive director. We've been working with Crop Organization for the last 3 years out here. And, he had an amazing opportunity at Checker. He asked us to come to breakfast out here on a Sunday morning pretty early. And he has some information for us. And it turns out, as the ball is rolling, and he says, guys, I got an opportunity, but I don't want to leave you not in good hands. And there's somebody, her name's Terah Lawyer-Harper. We got to go to breakfast with her. That's right. She could be the next executive director of Crop. Now, we've always been male only, right? Mainly because we're in a male prison. That's where we started, and then out here, a team of buddies. But we were never opposed to having women. And then I heard about Terah. I said, well, let's do it. Yeah. So we're at breakfast the next week. Would you share a little bit about that story?
Well, I'd like to set the table, if you don't mind, Rich, just a little bit, because what most of you don't know, and you know this, Rich, from knowing me, that I always have stuff going on behind the scenes trying to build Crop into a beast of social impact.
Yep.
And I had Terah was at our first cohort introduction that we did last March.
Kickoff.
Right, the kickoff event.
Really?
And a lot of people don't even know that she was in the audience and came to support us and what we were doing.
On the Zoom call?
On the Zoom call, right?
Okay.
And you remember that? That was about a year ago,
About
right?
90 people showed up.
And
Was
she
she
was
the
there.
one? Was she the
phenomenal.
one that said, "Where's all the women at"?
No, she wasn't that one. But I did give Terah a shout out that day for being there. And what most of you don't know, just because I didn't have an opportunity to share it, I called Terah and I said, Terah, we're going to need a housing director at CROP to run the campus, to run what's going on in LA, and to really build out an infrastructure for once people graduate, doing what she does, matching people to homeowners, but we want to match people to housing providers where people can get their key to their own apartment. The key is independence, right?
Right.
And, Terah went back and forth and, talked to me a little bit about what I could pay her. And so we kind of agreed that in the future, when we were ready to pull the trigger, Terah was going to come over and be our housing director. Right. So I'd already had that relationship locked in because I knew how valuable she was in the housing space. And so when the opportunity to head Checkers Foundation came up and I started thinking about it, there's no way that I could have created something that could have been a possible problem without offering a solution.
Absolutely.
And when I thought about the landscape of California criminal justice reform and all of the different people that we know, Rich, I racked my brain for like 3-4 nights about who possibly could step in and provide the type of leadership to take CROP to the next level. And the list was very short. When I say very short, I mean like 1 or 2 people. And I kept coming back. It kept pulling me back to Terah. I kept seeing her face and her smile. And I remember her articulation. I've seen her on several webinars, several of events. And I said, you know what? I think Terah might be the only person that can handle the breadth of what we were trying to do, because a lot of people see you and it looks so easy on the front, but this is really like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. We have a whole lot of things going on here. We got a whole lot of things.
Happens to be my favorite movie, but
Yeah.
another podcast for another time.
Right. So she was the only person. So, when I first drove up to see Ted, and talked to Ted and told him a little bit about Terah, and I said I'd love to be able to bring her up to breakfast to meet the fellas, and we had breakfast first, and then brought her up to meet you guys, and you guys fell in love. I think day one.
Love at first sight.
And the rest is history. So
I remember thinking okay, it was another early Sunday morning breakfast. Me and my wife like to normally rest on Sunday, but here we are. And but I was thinking, I was excited to meet you. And I was also listening for your story, your leadership style, and your vision for CROP and coming in. And I remember walking away feeling like, man, it was interesting that you said you had older brothers because it just fit right in. Like sometimes the older brothers need an older sister to lead them, or you just fit right in like family, like a sister. I loved your authenticity, loved your story, and the way that you talk with us and share with us. And the rest is history, but we can get into that a little bit. Ken, you shared recently in a quote that Terah's dynamic personality and strategic thinking brings value to the leadership team that will help CROP succeed for years to come. Why not tee up a little bit about the last year, what is to come, because this will be one of the first shows. Early on, we did on episode 3 of the Prison Post, we laid out the vision, right. Early on of the 4 pillars, right?
That's right.
And then now, this is all about to come to pass.
Yeah, before I even get into it, I just want us to give pause for the moment, Rich, because we've come a long way since that podcast in October, I think, of 2020. And I think at that time, we were sitting around Ted's kitchen table, and we had a lot of ideas. We had a lot of passion. And at that point in time, I think it was just more a vision, but nothing had come into fruition yet. And so from that time of that podcast, we went to work, because, vision without implementation of even the idea will leave you short. And we started building relationships. The CNN episode came out where Jason was brilliant. We call him Mr. Hollywood now. We got a lot of traction from doing some policy work and some ideas, and they had the opportunity to meet the governor. We started thinking about whether we could get funding from the California legislature. We co-sponsored a couple bills, AB 328 and AB 628. And then we started building relationships. We built relationships with Google. We built relationships with Microsoft and did a lot of work with Oktar at the University of Washington.
Oracle.
Right, Oracle.
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn. We did stuff with Stanford University. And really what we did as we put these relationships together and the idea began to form, we took that to the legislature. And we talked really about three things that I think is important in this field. We talked about, first, the importance of proximity and proximate leadership, and how people who with lived experience across the sector, not just with formerly incarcerated people, across all areas of social impact, should be the ones at the table and probably should be the ones leading. And then I think the second thing we talked about that resonated with the legislature this year was the future of work. And as you know, I did some future work stuff with the governor's office before I came to CROP, and started really talking about how do people like Richard Mireles and Jason Bryant and Matt and Ted and Terah get into the knowledge-based economy and the technology-based economy, because oftentimes most of our folks are pushed into labor, low wage, et cetera, and so forth. And I think that resonated with the legislature. And I think the third thing we talked about that ultimately got us over the hump was human-centered and holistic solutions for social problems, and how we need to get away from the siloed nature of reentry, where we really set people up to fail, and really model reentry kind of like Job Corps for formerly incarcerated people, where there's a transition period where we have safe, dignified housing. And just for the record, dignified housing for all those listening means your own room and your own bathroom. Training, digital literacy, and all the different things that we ended up teaching. And the legislature believed in us. And I think that for me, what's so humbling is the state of California is the first state that we know of that gave 5 guys who all got out of Soledad, not more than, at that time, 2.5 years. You were the oldest at 2.5 years, and gave us, close to $30 million to build out an innovative reentry program like this country has never seen. And so for us to have that opportunity was humbling and amazing. I remember you, when we had our first call, you were like, we were all doing this, and we were elated, right? I mean, Ted, doesn't get emotional. He was emotional, and, Kelly was crying, and we just had a great time understanding what was in front of us. And so the opportunity is historic. And I think that we set the stage. It's up to us to set the stage for all directly impacted people.
That's right.
In the future. And so that's why I think that Terah, who has the vision, key, who has the implementation background with programming and understanding how to work with people and leading, is so apropos for this particular position and this job as a young, fierce leader in the space. I think that, I think she's the person. So that's kind of how we got there. It was a long road, but I couldn't be more happy. And now that I've moved over to the board, I'm happy to still be able to work with you and Jason and Matt and Ted and the rest of the team, and especially Terah, to help set strategic vision for how we can not only do what we're doing now, but create a whole new foundation for all the directly impacted people that come out of prison, and create safe spaces for them to be able to thrive and set their lives up for success.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what's next in terms of, well, I know we have a press release coming up at the Capitol on March 8th.
We do.
And we can unpack a little bit of the rest of the program. But in light of what Ken shared, now the vision was big. I've been around Ted for Ted Gray, who's original co-founder and executive director of CROP. This guy's a visionary. He brings in Ken. He's a visionary. I'm just crazy enough to just go along with these guys. Well, if they say we can do it, we can do it. My vision's never been that high. I don't believe in the ceiling anymore that I used to believe exists. And they say we can do it, we can do it. And then it came about. And then now, the implementation.
Right. And this is where the fun begins, right? This is when you get to pick out color schemes and get to put up all your public figures and move things around and really design. And I think that is really something that's natural to me is program development. I didn't realize I had this talent until back in 2012 at CCWF, when the warden was going to dissolve one of the inmate leisure time activity groups. And I said, please let me get my hands on it. I said, I know exactly what to do with this entire organization. She let me get on there. and we restructurized it.
Right.
And we saw it thrive, and it ended up getting congressional recognition. It got Senate recognition. We created the first youth diversion program while we were inside, and she was so grateful to us that we ended up having a really big appreciation. So I constantly want to get behind programs that either need to be revitalized or programs that need to be built out and launched and scaled. Same thing happened with Impact Justice. I begged President Alex Buzansky, let me get my hands on this homecoming project. I know what to do with it. And 6 months later, we launched and have placed 70 more people into housing throughout Alameda County and Contra Costa County. And so getting behind ideas, the vision that all of you guys created was so in alignment with my purpose in life. I think I have to make that very, very clear. It's my purpose in life to really situate myself and provide resources, guidance, and to empower people to thrive. That's it, right? That's like, if I can do that on a daily basis, it's not work. It's my path. It's my purpose. But what's very unique about the Ready for Life program is normally social justice organizations, criminal justice reform organizations specialize in one thing and they do it well, right? Whether it's housing, whether it's employment development, whether it's job placement, whether it's job training, whether it is all these variety of different things in the reentry, case management. CROP was so daring to envision something even bolder, which was keeping this in comprehensive whole person care that's individualized, not a cookie cutter approach to services, which is how there's such a large disconnect in California. And don't get me wrong, I'm not cutting up CDCR for their efforts. I know it's a big mammoth of a project with our mass incarceration and people getting released. There's going to be a level of disconnect that we are now so bold and courageous to fix. And it has to all be under one umbrella. It has to all be one system so that everyone's able to get the services that they need and not fall through the gaps and recidivate.
Absolutely. Well, Ken, thank you for recommending Terah. It's been great working with her over the last 3 months. We look forward to the future. You're at Checker now, and would you share? We're gonna go into a little one-on-one with Terah in a minute here, but I want our audience made up of formerly incarcerated people, family members and loved ones of incarcerated and formerly incarcerated people, and also people in social justice, restorative justice, criminal justice reform movement. Checker's doing some amazing things. Would you talk about your role there, what you're doing today?
Sure.
And how people could find out more.
I appreciate that, Rich. I think there's not much difference between what I'm doing at Checker versus what I was doing at CROP. I think it's just on a different scale. Checker is a background check company, but their mission since I was in prison when they first came in with Defy Ventures has been fair chance hiring. Checker has dedicated currently 6% of their workforce are people that did time in prison, which is trend setting and torch bearing for a tech company in the Bay Area. And so, their success, they had so much success over the last 5 or 6 years, and they've had hyper growth that they wanted to create a philanthropic arm, a foundation to really turn their mission into a movement across this country. So I've been tasked with leading Checker into the national spotlight for fair chance hiring and convincing other businesses, which I love to do, Rich, to start fair chance hiring programs. And so, I get to now, talk to a lot of different CEOs from different companies. I just was on a call yesterday with Redfin, one of the biggest online real estate groups in the country. They want to start a fair chance hiring program to get formerly incarcerated people into the real estate business and have jobs ready for them now. So that's the work I'm doing, and working with mission partners. Still, CROP is one of our closest mission partners, and being able to find opportunities for once CROP leaders graduate from the program, we'll be able to create job opportunities for them and get other tech companies to be able to take CROP leaders and other programs who have trained people into economic mobility and livable wage jobs.
That's right. Well, thank you for staying on our board as a co-chair.
You can't get rid of me that easy, Rich.
And also just being a part of giving of your life. This is like our life's work, like Terah mentioned, her purpose. Giving of your life. What's it going to be like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? And for people coming out and being treated like you've always talked about, with dignity, as human beings.
That's right.
And we never lost our value. That's where we were. That's not who we are. And that's the past. And people shouldn't continuously be defined by their past.
That's right.
But by the character they live by today and for living for causes greater than themselves. I'm so thankful to have this first part of our conversation with you, two wonderful people who live for causes greater than yourselves as a natural expression of who you are. So, Ken, we want you to come back and share your life story and transformation story.
Appreciate you.
And because I believe it's going to add a lot of value to people, especially those with family members who have loved ones in their 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years in solitary confinement and can wonder, is my loved one ever going to get out? Is it possible to become like Ken? Sure.
Or Rich, or Terah. Right?
Yeah, as Ted says, we don't want you to think that we're some extraordinary people or special. That anybody can do what we do with the opportunity.
That's right.
Absolutely. Thanks,
That's
Rich.
right.
I appreciate you, Terah. It's great to see you again. I know you're going to do wonderful things with Crop.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to working with you.
Thank you.
All right.
And we're back here with Terah Lawyer. I think I just dropped her Coke under the table. But
That's
we're
all
all
right. Nobody
We're all
can
right.
see that. It's under the table.
Terah, like I said, our new team at Crop Organization, super excited to have you on as our leader, as our executive director, and visionary. Just being able to work with you in the last 3 months, I've really appreciated your authentic leadership, servant leadership, humble style, the way you connect with us, the way you care about us. There's an old John Maxwell quote that says, people don't care how much you know unless they know how much you care. I knew that immediately from you. I got sick recently with my wife right after Christmas with bronchitis. And, we've been pretty driven here over the last few years and haven't really taken too much time off doing this work that we love. But you said something to me that was really meaningful. You said, I'm going to do something for you that somebody did for me at one time that was an employer. And you said that I'm ordering you to take the week off to rest and to get ready. And that meant a lot to me and to my wife and family because it told me that you cared about my well-being. And I appreciate that. We appreciate that. And I think that with leaders who love their people, we're going to go a long way. I have full confidence in you and in the mission work, of course, but in the way that you care about people. To me, that is of primary importance. And I just wanted to start off by sharing with our audience. And I shared a minute ago who our audience is, but sharing with them, where did that heart come from for you?
I think all the way back to when I was young, and I've always been drawn towards individuals who are differently able. And I would say the first population or the first group that I was drawn to was individuals in the deaf community. And I didn't want people to treat them differently because they were differently abled. And so I wanted to connect with them.
Yeah.
So I began doing classes for American Sign Language and found that it's less about putting people who are different from you over there or ostracizing them, but finding a way to create a bridge to connect to them.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty much a really foundational moment in my growth that really informs my own values as a person. Fast forward, I get impacted by my own poor choices and become incarcerated. And less about looking at others incarcerated with me and doing what normally people do, which is sort of create a hierarchy of social classes and they are them or by race or by class or by education. I wanted to find that common ground where we were all connecting and we were all hurting.
Mm-hmm.
We all made a choice that we were living in the consequences, and I'm pretty much confident throughout my 15 years of understanding now that everyone that was in prison did not get there by being their best selves.
Right.
They were unhealthy at a moment in their life, whether it was from past trauma, whether it was from under the influence of drugs or alcohol, whether it was a mental illness that had gone untreated. And you think about what happens inside of prison is a culture that's very punitive and not healing or empowering. And a very pivotal moment of recognizing this happened when I went to Norway and Finland on a prison tour to really evaluate and assess and observe how in the world did this country, reduce their prison population in half of the time, and what is it going on here? And it was so human-centered that I thought it was a smokescreen.
Wow.
And I ended up having a moment where I needed to go into the bathroom and just weep for the lack of humanity we have in our prison systems and the lack of humanity that we have in our culture. We're a very punitive culture. You think about a child who does something wrong. What does the parent do? They either take something away from them, right? Or they put them on timeout. And we do that to our adults, both in fold. And I think about the investment in people and how many of the people that were in prison did not have someone investing in them, right? And yet, after a certain age, when you become an adult, there's a lot less interested parties willing to invest in you for success.
Yeah.
And that's got to change. How are we going to advance as a species if we do not pull and carry each other forward with true forms of equity principles and equal access to the services that are specific to their needs? So you ask me, why do I have this approach? It's because you have to be good to yourself and to others. You have to be kind to yourself and to others. The same expectation that you have to double it. You can't let others' outward-facing circumstances dictate who you're going to be in character. You have to represent that character on the road when you experience a really poor driver or road rage. It has to be incorporated in every aspect of your life, professionally and, through leisure time activities. And I truly believe, specifically, as a formerly incarcerated professional who served 15 years inside, where all the job assignments inside of prison pay you pennies to work for hours, and there are no sick days. There are no vacation days. You will be punished if you don't show up to work. This strong consideration informs my work that formerly incarcerated professionals do not know how to take care of themselves in this real professional world, right? This modern professional society. And so how do we change the workplace to encourage health and wellness, self-care, self-reflection, mental health wellness as well? We have to revolutionize it. And again, right, we just talked about, I think it was Norway or Finland, one of those are testing the 4-day workday. Right now, that might be daring. We have a lot more work to do here in America before we can explore that.
I like the way you think.
But in all honesty, we have to really look at how we are meeting people where they're at.
Right.
And it's going to take time, but little bit by little bit, we're going to advance this. So that's my approach.
Yeah. And there's couple things that stick out to me by you sharing that. The first is, I think about the freedom that we're offering people through leadership development, digital and financial literacy, housing, stipends along the way, and careers where they can earn a livable wage. That's a form of freedom. But you're talking about also, and maybe that is crop organization's secret sauce, offering another form of freedom. I like to say I had to get free on the inside before I ever got free on the outside. You're talking about offering a mindset where you live as a natural expression of who you are, caring about yourself and caring about others. Sadly, a lot of people don't live their lives that way. It's certainly not the prison system's model, which is, the punishment model versus the investing model. It's a reactionary. It's a reactionary approach, and when a person begins to live caring for themselves and caring for others as a natural expression of who they are, right? There's a new type of freedom that you seem to exude, experience, and that is a result of living that way. It's so empowering, and that's really even more special than the jobs or the digital and financial literacy in some ways.
It's priceless. It's priceless. It's just like our time, right? It can only be spent. It cannot be kept. And I think it can only be given away, right? Now, one thing that I love to sort of do in an exercise when I'm teaching is the concept of money and power. And if you had all the money in the world, right, what would you do with it? There's an underlining philosophy. Even if you had all the power in the world, what would you do with it? It comes down to the freedom of choice. And that's what we need to be empowering people with, is more freedom in their choices. Mm-hmm. Instead of limiting them in a box and saying, this is how you need to be, this is how you need to perform, we need to expand their horizons by creating more resources and more opportunities for their selection to be more specific to, that internal rewards. And then they will perform in such a way that makes them stars in their own life. Yeah. We don't see that much. We see you're limited to entry-level jobs. You're limited into getting a higher education. Restrictions on this, restrictions on that. Licensures are limited, and a variety of different other things. When we open up a door, we're just creating more freedoms and choices people can make for themselves.
Yeah. I like to share in my reentry story. I went to 30 different apartment complexes, and they said, do you have 2 years of renter history? Do you have a year of pay stubs? Are you a felon? And do you have a 640 credit score above? I had none of that. Someone had stolen my identity, had a terrible score, and didn't have those things. So they pretty much said, well, you pretty much shouldn't even fill out the paperwork because you're going to be denied. So what do? I'm out here with a job, nearly having a master's degree, and ready to work, ready to thrive, ready to be a responsible citizen, but I can't find a place to live. So that ties into the next quote. I wrote down something that you shared recently. You shared that you're honored and excited to work alongside my team at CROP to provide our justice-involved brothers and sisters with new opportunities to engage in meaningful, livable wage work and thrive within the community. Terah, why is it important for you? You were doing great at Impact Justice. Amazing visionary idea. When I first heard it, I'm like, oh, that's happening, right? It's amazing for family members to offer a room to people first getting out. And I think the public would think, oh, that's dangerous. But you think, no, it's safe. It's awesome. It's beautiful. And then to come over here and take on this, gargantuan effort at CROP, why is it important for you to help people get that, like Ken shared earlier, that holistic program where the mindset, the digital literacy, financial literacy, jobs, careers, and all the implementation process? Why is that why are you passionate about that?
It's paramount. It makes our communities safer. It makes families closer, creates family reunification. It creates a pathway into more success for the community beyond the person that's formerly incarcerated. You talk about the ripple effect of crime. This is the ripple effect of amends. This is how we repair our communities. Yeah. This is how the voices of those who have been impacted by their own poor choices and incarceration can give back to the communities that are still struggling with crime. Yeah. This is where they can speak to the youth that are at risk and say, do not make that choice. This is really the reality of what that choice can lead to.
Absolutely.
Let me show you something different. Because every person that I've seen any CBO and organization invest into, something happens in them and they turn around and invest in their community. They turn right back around and give it back and pay it forward. And the ripple effect takes place in such a phenomenal way that even researchers can't wrap their brain around it. This is when you're talking about the human-centered piece.
Yeah.
When I look at you and I do approach you with more curiosity than judgment.
Thank you.
Right? I'm curious as to what makes Richard tick. I'm curious as to what makes anyone tick, because the curiosity keeps me open for learning, keeps me open for solutions to any of their problems that they may be experiencing.
Right.
And it makes us think innovatively in ways that are not based on tradition, because traditionally we've failed
Right.
in various different ways. And so how do we think outside the box? You have to be radical. You have to be a little daring.
Right.
You have to be audacious. And in order to do these various different things, you have to be around a team of individuals who believe in something beyond themselves.
Okay, that's awesome. So let's talk about that audacious unpacking of this program over the last year. For a lot of people who don't know, I mean, on our show, on the Prison Post, we definitely interview transformational. We interview formerly incarcerated people and currently incarcerated people, have them share their transformational stories. And like I shared earlier, people in the movement who are making a difference. But we sometimes unpack what we do at CROP. But I'd like to invite Terah to unpack what we'll be doing over the next year in the Bay Area and LA, if that's okay.
Oh my goodness. Okay. This is the exciting part.
All right.
Right. And
Because we're not just speaking about vision, we put action behind it.
oh, we've been busy. We've been busy.
Right.
So we are excited this year to launch the most signature historic program in California. We've identified a building that we are currently getting painted into crop colors, and it's going to be our career campus in Oakland.
Yep.
We'll have housing for 50 individuals. And on the second floor of this incredible building is 4 different large classrooms, office space for all of our educators and staff members, a full-on commercial kitchen to provide meals, a gym, 2 outdoor spaces. And, you know, it's just amazing how when these doors open, the connections and the point of entry, working with federal probationers, county probation officers, state parole agents, correctional counselors inside of the prisons, transitional housing programs that have individuals that will be interested in a program such as this, they're going to have an opportunity to take 12 months and really focus on themselves. Right? We're talking about personal leadership development for the first 3 months, professional skills development, financial literacy, digital literacy, everything you need to know to shift your mind from whatever that institution taught you that is backward thinking and toxic, and really become healthy and prepared before we enter into that skills building, right? Where they choose a career track that is going to give them an incredible pathway into livable wage employment. Before we lead them on to housing for life, and that permanent housing piece, working with a lot of property management companies and apartment complexes and housing affordability and HUD, and the menu is going to be wide and large so that we can have something specific for each person. I say this all the time. The only thing in common formerly incarcerated people have is that we're formerly incarcerated. My circumstances are unique. Your circumstances are unique. I cannot ever give someone a cookie cutter approach towards reentry. That's not going to serve them. I don't want to give them services that don't apply to them when that could be used for someone in need. I want us to find a way to set up a model that people can navigate through it with the freedom of choice.
Right. That's awesome. Terah, maybe the 30-second to a minute versions of what do you mean, right? They're generalizations: digital literacy, financial literacy, career training. You know, do you mean truck driving? Do you mean getting behind a computer and learning, some type of software? So maybe unpack each of those types of trainings that they will receive, because it's not just willy-nilly. It's sort of some state-of-the-art type stuff.
Yeah, we're talking UX design, right? We're talking product management. We're talking the current industry trends in the tech sector for individuals that need these certifications. Our entire associates and leaders will be getting that. They'll be being able to be streamlined right into the talent pool that is currently out there.
Right.
And we're thinking really creatively about how do we bring on some of the efforts that Ken just mentioned earlier about fair chance hiring practices with our employer development and educating them on DEI and how do you work with the population and how do you incorporate them in. We're thinking of every various different way to incentivize employers to choose our pool of talent who oftentimes gets pushed in the back of the line, to bring them forward and give them a chance, because studies show formerly incarcerated employees are some of the hardest working
Absolutely.
employees. They are some of the longest lasting employees that go above and beyond because they have a lot to prove. And so we're excited for this work.
Yeah, and maybe I'm out of the loop, but I don't know of another organization that actually hired a director of employer development to go and have the conversation. It's like when I first got out, you can take this training, but after that, you're on your own to find a job.
Yeah.
We're not just leaving you on your own to find a job. We are actively working to find you the employment, and we have a director of employer development that's going to go out to hundreds of employers in the tech industry and help them shift their narrative and discover why it would be even far more advantageous to hire you, somebody who's formerly incarcerated us, than just being stuck with this stigma of people coming out of prison who don't want to work or just drug addicts. I mean, I haven't used drugs in I'm going to be 22 years in June, so I'm definitely not that guy. And then also with we actually will have Google trainers on site. When we talk about financial literacy, you're not getting a book like, when I was in prison the last 3 months, are like, here's learn about how to do a checking account and savings account. And it's this thick old book that I'm like, I got 3 weeks out. I'm trying to read that book.
Right.
I'll figure it out later.
Right.
We'll have actual bankers
right.
on site.
Right. And what's interesting, and not interesting, what is phenomenal is that our financial literacy coursework isn't just a book, like you said, that you read. We actually put it into practice. So our associates and leaders will be getting a stipend every month. They'll have their own bank account set up with a checking account and a debit card. They'll have a secured credit card so that they can build credit while they're with us, right? They'll have a savings account. So a portion can be set aside for them in preparation for independent living.
It's awesome.
Right? All of these various different things is set up for success. We don't want to just teach you digital literacy. We want you to have your own laptop so you can learn digital literacy.
So they'll get their own laptop.
Yes. Do you understand? So it's you get your own room, you get your own stipend, you get your own housing, and then we're going to be launching in LA as well. There won't be a housing component, but we know that there's individuals who are going to want all of these different services while they're living in the community.
That's awesome. And that's a 3-year vision?
This is 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years.
What are some of your ideas for 5 years, 10 years down the line for CROP and people coming out?
Yep. So one of the things is we envision a data analytics platform that is going to connect all of the reentry service providers with the California Department of Corrections, the county probation offices, and make sure that no one falls through the cracks so that we can really look at this data and aggregate it properly. It's currently skewed. It's reported, it's siloed. It's reported really haphazardly and to our own detriment. This is why we have encampments in Los Angeles, encampments in Oakland. If you're formerly incarcerated, you're 10 times more likely to become homeless. We've seen it time and time again. You give someone housing, you give them the resources that they need, and they most likely will thrive and blow your mind. So it's not even a matter of question at this point. It's a matter of practice.
Absolutely.
And we're ready to do it.
Yeah, I love that. Crop gave me an opportunity to make a livable wage, and I think about being able to give money to my sister and her kids for who are all in elementary school for their school supplies and for their school clothes, and and my parents, they visit me 6 to 8 weeks, every 6 to 8 weeks while I was incarcerated. There's no way I could ever pay them back for all that they did and all that they are to me. But I was able to, as a gift, I wanted to pay their mortgage 1 month, and I was able to send them that and bring all kinds of Christmas gifts over the holidays. And why would I ever want to go back when I can do beautiful things like that? Versus if I was struggling in a minimum wage job, it would be very difficult for me to do that. So, Terah, we got a couple more minutes here, but love your heart for people. I believe that we're gonna really leave a legacy of transformed lives. We don't want anybody to go back, and we want to provide all that they'll need to not go back. And whatever needs that we discover along the way that may be missing, like some of those long-term effects of being incarcerated for so long, we want to meet those as well. And so it's just awesome having you here.
Thank you so much. And don't forget setting the stage to ensure that nobody else goes in.
Yeah.
Right? We got to save our youth.
Yep.
Invest in them as well.
Breaking up the school-to-prison pipeline.
Exactly.
Yep.
It's important.
I had one last question for you, and I don't want to. It shouldn't be last. But as a formerly incarcerated woman, and now leader of this organization, what's your message for other formerly incarcerated women that are coming out, who can do things like you do, and then the last thing would be who can add value to the world, do what you do, whenever we think about or talk about prison, from my experience, I'm all over social media and all these different groups all the time. Most of the time it's focused around men. Most of the time the programs, the housing, everything's focused around men. Our program will be for men and women. You're an inspirational woman leader, and as a leader as well, but what's the message that you might have for them? And then lastly, if you'd talk to the camera for those watching this on the inside, the brothers and sisters still incarcerated, getting out, wondering could this be possible for me to be successful? What would you say to them?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, women are the backbones of our families, right? And oftentimes when a woman is incarcerated, it tears at the fabric of a family.
Absolutely.
And because the ratio to women to men is very different, right? More men are incarcerated than women. There's less resources that are specific to women needs. Mm-hmm. And so how do we approach services to where they're equally distributed with a lens of sensitivity towards women needs? We do that one person at a time. And when it comes to any formerly incarcerated leaders, I believe that it is important to not just think big, but to dream and to plan. And usually what's a great sign of that is sit back and analyze what bothers you. Mm-hmm. When you look out your window, when you read or watch TV, those issues in our society that nag at you or keep you up at night, instead of complaining about it or being angry about it or judgmental, you have something in you that's calling for a solution to be developed. Mm-hmm. And once that solution, no matter how crazy and ridiculous it is, you don't stop talking about that solution until you find the people aligned with that particular mission to come on board. Because mission-aligned people find each other. And that's how Crop found me and I found Crop.
That's right.
Is we were mission-aligned. And I encourage all formerly incarcerated people to do the same, to lead your heart's work forward.
Find your mission and find your people.
Find your mission, find your people. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you for being on the Prison Post, Terah. Look forward to having you again in the future.
It's been an honor.
I look forward to your leadership and to the way we're going to transform lives and new communities.
I appreciate you, Richard.
So this has been another episode of the Prison Post. You can find us on all of your podcasting platforms. We're there. And also on YouTube. Please leave us a like. Hit that red subscribe button. And if you know somebody who's like us and wants to be a guest, or you're making a difference in these fields, reach out to me. Give me a call. You can find us and reach out to us at croporganization.org on our website. Hit that contact page. If you'd like to support our work, hit the donate button. It takes a lot of work, takes a lot of effort, and it takes a lot of funding. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for listening to The Prison Post, a production of the Crop Organization. We'll be sharing more stories from the world of prison reform and restorative justice, so please join us. You can listen to The Prison Post on all major podcasting platforms. Subscribe to our video cast on YouTube and like us on Facebook at The Prison Post and at Creating Restorative Opportunities and Programs.